It's Shae and Lilah, and today we're going to be discussing like horror films. We kind of just got into a discussion, like I would say, like we were just talking about it, and I was like, low-key, this would be kind of a good YouTube video. So like, I don't know, last night we watched it, and like that's one of our favorites. I mean, we've showed it to like now at this point, we've like watched it twice.
Yeah.
And so we're just kind of like discussing like different horror films and ones we like, and we actually like made a list too. So we're kind of iconic like that, but yeah. So we're just kind of discussing them. I mean, she was telling me about one called Game Night, which is like, do you want to explain like the plot?
So, there's this married couple, and they usually are the ones that host game night, and then the husband's brother comes to town, and he's like the one who always gets like good grades, like makes a lot of money, he's like rich, parents always like favorite child. Anyways, so he always says, he's like, oh, I'm gonna host game night next week. So then the next week they go to their house, and they think that they're just gonna play like a board game or whatever, but in reality it's like a murder mystery. And the first people who come to the house to like play in the murder mystery, like because he hires actors to come in, they're the real people who come in, and they're all trying to win the younger brother's dream car, which is like a really old car that he's wanted since high school anyways. So anyways, then the brother like gets taken by the real killers and is now held hostage because he's like got into a bad business.
Well, and you said it was kind of funny too, which is kind of what you liked about it. Like,
because it's funny because the people don't realize that it's because they think it's just fake and actors.
Yeah.
They're
like being really dumb.
They're like, oh my gosh, oh this is fake, haha, you're gonna
It's like
take
me watching
it.
a horror movie. Like when I make fun of it, sometimes I'm like that. I'm like, oh my gosh, so scary. Oh yeah, I was talking about Stephen King. So Carrie was really good. I liked it, and I had it like I kind of was like I knew it was a good movie. I just didn't really know because it didn't seem scary to me, and I thought like they meant it was good in like a scary way. And so I'd always heard about it. I wanted to see it. Like I'd always heard about it though, and I was like, okay, well it doesn't seem like it'd be scary, so I'm kind of confused. But it was like good. It wasn't scary. It was just like really like well acted, and it feels very realistic to like the mom, and it's really abusive, but it's like they really do a good job portraying that. And the actress who plays the mom is literally so good. After I saw the movie, I like kind of started searching movies with her because it was like that good. Like you see it and you're like, that's such good acting. Like how like it's so professional, and like she's just, I don't know, it's just really good.
Who's the actor?
I don't know her name, but she's really like good in that movie specifically. I've never heard of her before. She's kind of an older actor, but so good. And then Sissy Spacek, I think her name is. She's who plays Carrie. And she's like the perfect Carrie. But she's so pretty, but she's kind of like not traditionally, if that makes sense. I think the problem with the newer one is they casted Chloe Grace Moretz, who's very like traditionally pretty. So it's kind of hard to believe she'd be like under an outcast when she's like stunning, you know? But like Sissy Spacek is so pretty, but it's like in a untraditional way, and if you like really put her hair down, I think it's like you could see her being like a nerd.
Yeah.
So I really liked it. I thought it was good. And then Pet Sematary, me and Josie really liked. The only thing I found bad with Pet Sematary is that the main character makes lots of bad choices. Like basically what happens is I'm not gonna spoil anything, but 2 of the characters die, and he's like trying to bring them back alive, but he does it twice. So it goes really bad the first time, and then he's like, you know what? I'm just gonna try it one more time. And it's like, who would do that?
I don't know.
So I kind of don't like that. Silver Bullet was okay, but it wasn't like scary. It was just kind of like a coming of age movie. Graveyard Shift was so bad. Like not even like bad in a comedic way. It was about evil rats, and the rats were funny. For me, at least. I don't know. The rats in the movie, like, I don't know. They just like are really dumb. Like not dumb. Like they're smarter than the characters in the movie. That's kind of how it is summed up. Like they're supposed to be really scary and they're like manipulative. And it's funny because they're like killer rats, you know.
Wait, which movie?
Graveyard Shift. So I mean, I like those ones. I also really like it. I think it's a good one. I'm just like very, it's like, it's very like Stranger Things-esque. And I think they do a really good job in it of like portraying like an 80s like coming of age movie too. It feels like very kind of like E.T. almost kind of. It reminds me of like the characters, at least. Obviously it's way scarier. But,
Yeah.
or like Goonies is kind of, I would actually almost call it like our generation's Goonies. Like that's kind of a big stretch, but I don't know, I feel like it's just one of those movies where it's like we watch it and we're like, you don't wish you were the kids, but you're also like watching it and you're like, this is kind of cool, like they're all besties, like I want a squad like this. I don't know, it's hard to explain. That's kind of what I think, especially because like kids our age like kind of like watch it and they're like you're afraid of it, but also like the story is so like intricate, and like I love how like they put so much effort into like making the kids seem realistic as far as they act too.
Yeah.
So I really like that movie. Shining's good. I would like The Shining. I mean, it's like one of my favorites. I'm trying to think of like, the only thing I critique about it is there's this one scene where like the mom looks in the room, right, and it's like she's like trying to run off from her husband because her husband's being insane in the memory, and like she looks in the room and there's like a dog. I can't really tell you why that's like a scene in the movie. Like it's a guy dressed up as a bear. Like for no reason, just in the movie. And that's like the only thing I don't like. That was the one scene I was like, what the heck is happening? But it's like a good movie, and I mean, I kind of like it. I also like horror movies about kids though. I think that's more interesting because it's interesting to see like what a kid or a teenager would do in that situation.
And it's also more relatable because
we're teenagers, and so we aren't going to relate to the adults. I mean, but I guess there's a little bit to be said though for the effectiveness of like the children actors in a movie, because it's like when the child's in danger, it's like you want to be like, oh my gosh, like that freaks me out.
Like your instincts.
Yeah, your mother instincts kind of thing, or your parent instincts. But it's like if the kid actor isn't that good, it's like how we're gonna really feel that for the character. And I feel like you also have to balance, like if you're gonna have the kid be creepy, you have to balance like the kid being creepy but also still being like likable. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. If they're not a likable character, it's hard to like.
Yeah.
Root for them.
Well, and that's a part of it too. It's like without likable characters, like you're like, why am I watching this? And I mean, I guess there's just different levels of it too, though. Like, you need the character to be like, if you're gonna do a movie like that, like kind of unlikable, but still like likable, because you're like, okay, I want them to win. I mean, and that kind of happens in horror films though, where it's like you have these characters and they're in danger, but it's like, so in some of them you're like, why do you care? Like, I remember I saw Evil Dead, like, a while back, like, sophomore year. I'm a senior now, so it's, like, that was a while ago. But, and it didn't really connect with me, because, like, I remember the characters were kind of, like, I don't know. They were kind of, like, they weren't very likable. They were kind of just annoying teens. Same with I've heard, like, I know that's people's issues with, forgetting the name. Ugh.
Wait, what's it about?
It's about a guy who murders, like, it's at a camp, and he murders people who, like, do it, basically. It's really weird. I don't know what it's called. I've never seen it. Oh, Friday the 13th. Yeah, that movie. And I know people, like, have an issue with it, because it's, like, the characters are all annoying teens, and it's, like, why do we care if they're, like, no, like, not like, you'd still care. Okay, that was bad. No, like, you'd still care, but it's, like, if they're really that annoying and they're not, like, that nice, like, you're kind of like, I care, but also okay, see, I'm so weird, because, like, that kind of, like, makes sense to me, like, you're kind of like, okay, I care, but also, like, you're being murdered, and they're not very good people, but then, like, Carrie, a bunch of, like, people get murdered, and it's, like, some of them aren't good people, but I still, like, get upset, because I'm like, oh, well, they were, like, they had a life, but I also think that's because they're, like, especially with teenagers, you're like, okay, well, that's how they were then, but, like, how were they going to be in the future if they lived, you know?
Yeah.
So I guess that's kind of a part of it too. Like, that's kind of why I scream, like, when people die in, like, that movie too. It's like, well, I mean, they're a bad thing, because people change after high school. It's like, but what would they have been like if they lived? And that's kind of why, like, I feel like that's what you have to do to make it effective. You have to, like, get that aspect in there of, like, what would they have been like if they were able to grow up, you know? So, that was a deep conversation.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I'm very passionate towards horror films, so I'm very, like, and actually films in general, I'm like, I really like films, and I like analyzing them too. It's really interesting. I don't know though, like, I'm trying to think of what my favorite horror movie is, because I really like Scream, but it's not like scary to me, you know? Have you seen Scream?
Yeah, we watched it.
Oh, okay, that's what I thought. Oh yeah, because we watched it with Jordan.
Yeah.
It's not like scary, but I like that it's like funny, but it's also like kind of making fun of other horror films while being a horror film. Like I find that so interesting, and I think that's what was great about Wes Craven. He's just so like unique in his directing and like writing.
And that one scene where she's like, "Oh yeah, I don't like horror movies because like the character just goes upstairs, and then a couple scenes later she goes upstairs when someone's haunting her."
Yeah, it's funny, and I like that's what I like too. Though is like him as a director. It seems like he was able to kind of make fun of his own work because like he did a genuine horror film. He did Nightmare on Elm Street, but then he did Scream, and he's over here like making fun of like the horror movie aspects. And I think that's like genius, kind of in a way, because it's like just. It's such a like unique spin, and I think before that movie there wasn't a lot of stuff that was doing that, like making fun of horror films like that. So it's just interesting. And then what's funny about Scary Movie is they spoof like Scream, but Scream's a spoof on other horror films, so it's kind of like a weird. I don't know, that always weirded me out because it's like a weird paradox almost. I also have seen I Know What You Did Last Summer, which is about like these people who like basically like throw away a dead body, and then it's like. It's like these teenagers, and they find, like, they accidentally run over someone, and then they put the dead body in the river, because they're like, okay, we don't want to get caught, which, like, bad, but,
yeah.
And then they end up getting, like, almost harassed by, like, somebody who's connected to the killer, it kind of seems like. I did not like that one very much. I just, like, it's sometimes the acting, too, like, and I think that was another one of those movies, though, where it's, like, the main characters aren't that, like, friendly or nice, so I kind of didn't relate to any of them. I was, like, and they didn't act like teenagers. Like, it's one of those things where sometimes movies, like, they're portraying teenagers, but it's so poor. Like, you, like, know you wouldn't act that way, you know? Like, they kind of almost undermine the teenagers, because they're like, well, they're just teenagers. They just be, like, on their phones and being, like, conceited and stuff. And it's, like, that's not always how teenagers act in, like, I don't know, it just bothers me. It's kind of like ageist almost, like, ugh. And that's kind of what that movie did, is they were all, like, kind of stereotypical, like, oh my god, I like bullying, oh my gosh. And it's like, I don't give a crap. So.
Also, if you have friends that can, like, you can, like, when we were watching it, you could be like, oh, that would totally be something I would do.
Yeah, and I felt like that happened with it. Like, I remember we have these friends, Ethan and Michael, and at first we started watching VCA, and they didn't really like it that much. So we were like, okay, we're gonna do it. And at first I think they were like, oh, we don't want to watch this. It's not cool. And then we, like, showed it to them, and I think they actually really liked it. Like, they were laughing. And I think that's what's great about it, though, is I feel like it's very, like, well-written as far as, like, portraying kids and teenagers go.
Yeah.
I feel like you can watch it and you can relate to the kids, because they're, like, they act like genuine, like, teenagers and kids. Like, you know.
Or they say stuff that, like, we would say.
Yeah. Like, I love the kid with the glasses. I forget his name, but he, like, reminds me of one of my friends, so, like, I watch that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that is literally something she would do. Oh my gosh. Mm-hmm. I love it. It's just good. It's well written, and I liked it a lot. I don't know. I feel like that's the one I would show to people to kind of start them also down, like, the horror movie path, because I feel like it's the perfect mix of, like, scary, but also, like, a really good plot. So I always say, like, don't start people off with, like, a really scary horror movie, because if you show that to them, like, I know people can, like, get freaked out and they never want to see one again. You kind of have to almost build up, like, start with this, then kind of go bigger, and then, like, if you really want to reach that point of scary, like, you can do that with your friends. Because I think if you start off with, like, Us, for example, like, if you start out with that movie, like, you would never want to see another horror movie, because you'd be so scared. You'd be like, Well, and the first horror movie I saw was The Visit, and I remember, like, I felt so edgy seeing it. It was me and Blair, and we were like, what movie should we see? And it was, like, The Visit was out, and we had kind of seen the trailers, and we were making fun of it, because it's literally about evil grandparents, and we were like, this is going to be so dumb. And then we saw it, and I literally was obsessed from that point. I was like, I want to see more horror films, and I started seeing, like, Scream. I saw Nightmare on Elm Street, because these were all on Netflix, and it's such a good, like, film genre, I feel like, because there's always something new to add to the equation, if that makes sense. Like, even with old ideas, you can kind of add something new in and spoof it up a bit, and that's what I really like about it. And
I added that one to our list.
The Visit,
Yes.
so good. Oh my, M. Night Shyamalan is like, I've heard he has a couple movies that are really bad, but for the most part, I really like his films. I feel like for me, a good horror film, I like I mean, again, I like just like the coming of age movies too. So when like you combine, because those are like my two favorite genres, is like horror and coming of age. So when you combine it, it's like I like that.